All right, so for YouTube, as you guys saw on my comment there, before we begin the pod proper here, I am really sorry. They're power washing my neighbor is getting their house power washed right now. There's nothing I can do about it. As you can see, I tried to wait 46 minutes here. I tried going live at between 2 and 2:30 in case something like this happens. Anyway, excuses aside, please excuse that. If you do want to hear, we're gonna, excuse me, sound cancel on the podcast itself. Do our best to sound cancel that, so please subscribe to the pod. There's our plug to subscribe to the pod, but as you know, going live, there's only so much we can do. All right, so 3, 2, 1 for the pod. Citizens of Tulsa and New York, welcome to Too Many Shows, a TV podcast. I am your host, Benjamin David. We are both live on our YouTube channel, B David Studios, and you can also find the pod wherever you listen to podcasts. So subscribe, follow there if you haven't, so you don't miss an episode. On that note, smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications for future streams of Too Many Shows. Also, any kind of super donations here in the stream or in any of our videos is much appreciated. And we're continuing the pods and the streams with our newest show, Tulsa King. I shouldn't say newest, we're 4 episodes in by now, but today I'm going to be reviewing Season 3, Episode 4, titled Staring Down the Barrel. For Tulsa King, we're going live every Monday, since episodes drop Sundays on TV, and we start between 2 and 2:30, like I said, p.m. EST every Monday. And finally, if you want to hear our exclusive episode coming this week for our Sam Jackson not my, I wish I was making the Sam Jackson spin-off series of Tulsa King, head on over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. Speaking of exclusives, last night we dropped our Alien Earth post-mortem exclusive. Thank God we're done with that. Should have just titled that episode, thank God. Giving my series reaction and overall thoughts. As patrons, you guys also get early access to podcasts, detailed episode notes for each pod, and a ton of more exclusive vids and pods you can only find there. That's all just at the $1 level, and again, that's patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. All right, so let's do it. My review of Tulsa King Season 3, Episode 4. So some IMDb credits, and then we have our non-spoiler initial thoughts, and then our spoiler walkthrough, as always. Episode 4 is once again titled Staring Down the Barrel. Script is by Taylor Streitz. A bunch of NCIS eps I looked up that he wrote. Just one of Tulsa King so far, but and that maybe mean just one of the whole season, but that's all we see so far. Directed by Kevin Dowling, who directed last episode, 4 episodes altogether of Tulsa King. Also directed some Mayans, some SOA, baby. The Americans as well, and then Bosch, the crime show Bosch. So this time we have, I didn't look up, I guess, what Kevin Dowling had directed in the past, so now we know. Created by, of course, the great Taylor Sheridan. And then Terrence Winter, I found out, is apparently completely off the show, at least for this season. And I will say, I'm going to cover this, it's evident. You know, I talked about some of the issues in the past few episodes, that they're a little too jokey for me. So it's, I guess the tone is being reflected by our lack of Terrence Winter, who of course goes back to The Sopranos, if you're not familiar. Anyway, cast, most of the cast is the same, so we got to highlight the return of Michael Beach as Mark Mitchell. I know we got Mark Mitchell in some episodes or I think just one this season so far, but I love this guy. I mean, Kareem, Mayor of Kingstown, that's going to be our next show here on Too Many Shows. He's Kareem in on Mayor of Kingstown. He was Black Manta's father in Aquaman, which I had forgotten about that until I did an IMDb deep dive. And then I'm rewatching the Lethal Weapon series, the show, and he's an agent that comes in here and there. I forget I think he's a federal agent of some kind, but does great on that, of course. Grillo, Frank Grillo comes back for this episode, Bill Bevilacqua, because he wasn't in the last one. I missed me some Grillo. And then Thresher is back for this one, played by Neil McDonough. Returning cast, of course, Sylvester Stallone is Dwight Manfredi, Dana Delaney is Margaret Devereaux, Annabella Sciorra is Joanne Manfredi, Martin Starr is Bodhi, and then Chris Caldovino is Dennis Goody Karanji. There is no synopsis, from IMDb, so we'll just jump right into non-spoiler thoughts, I guess, because it's such a fresh episode. They don't have one yet. And then, of course, our spoiler walkthrough after that. So some non-spoiler initial thoughts. Again, it's evident that Terry Winter isn't working on this season. It was The Sopranos meets Yellowstone, as we talked about a couple times at this point. Taylor Sheridan meets Terrence Winter. I don't expect Taylor Sheridan to stay on board. He's the creator. He's got this guy creates shows. He doesn't sleep, as we know. Creates more television than anyone in history at this point. So, but I just really wish there was still some of that DNA left. And I also didn't put two and two together last episode that one of the writers, I think Jamil Salim is his name, worked on a bunch of adult animation. He Bob's Burgers, some other stuff, which totally makes sense. Again, this is another thing that's now clicking. Like, I knew he did adult animation, but for whatever reason, I was like, too many jokes. Dialogue is actually good, which you need on an adult animation, but it's just, if not exceptionally good, right? But it's just a different tone. Like, the complaints that I had last episode, I'm saying at this point are really clicking, and I think with the crew, it's like, yeah, I can see how. But anyway, this episode, I will say, some highlights. Bill fucking Bevilacqua, the guy who drops F-bombs like more than Taylor Sheridan writes television. So it was good to have Bill Bevilacqua here. I just still wish the show was a bit more hardcore. You know, like season 1, when we're seeing Dwight just put a guy's face on a grill, just the stuff, a lot of serious action that we got in that first season that is just missing from this, I will say. A few more scenes, like the Bevilacqua scene, though, we got today. Like, if you just added a couple of those, he feels like a different show. And, you know, I'd be more okay with all the humor overall, maybe. But I think Bevilacqua, man, he feels like he's in his own show. So I did love at least having him this episode. So overall, the plot did move better. And I do like this episode much more than the last one. I will say that. The other thing, too, now that we're in non-spoilers, this is, again, episode 4. I looked it up. There's 10 episodes this season. So we're not even halfway through yet. And that gave me a lot. I was relieved at that. Because if we're coming up on halfway, what has happened so far? Things have happened, just not enough. So I'm really hoping that, you know, episode 5, it starts to pick up and reflect more of what we got season 1. All right, so our spoiler walkthrough. So begins our beat-by-beat spoiler walkthrough for season 3, episode 4. So we open at the distillery. Dwight lectures everyone. We get another Dwight lecturing people at the distillery. His performance in this episode, I don't know if it's the writing. I don't know if it's just he's older than he was 3 seasons ago, obviously, but it seems 2 seasons ago. This seems like what I'm trying to say is the acting of an older man who's just off his game maybe one day. Look, these are long hours. It's not easy. I'm sure he's clearly first on the call sheet, so they shoot him out first. But still, he's executive producing. He was writing some episodes, and I think this is like, maybe he just wasn't having a good day when they were shooting this stuff. Wasn't strong. Last episode wasn't either. So again, I don't know if this goes back to the staff change that we talked about, but anyway, Dwight is lecturing everybody. He's like, I told you I was gone for one day taking out a terrorist that I can't tell you about because I work for the feds, but he's like, the cat was away for one day and look what you guys did. I told you not to hit back. He then gives them all different assignments. He's like, I told you, we're a family, you know, blah, 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 blah. So he's, in the end of the lecture, he's not like completely pissed, but he was very clear with them of they shouldn't have done the things that they were doing, especially Tyson. And then, again, Tyson is somehow not hospitalized. Like, Cole Dunmire, Jeremiah, more importantly, Jeremiah Dunmire's number 2 is his son Cole. And this guy hasn't hospitalized people yet. And I am not promoting this, of course. I'm just saying these are gangsters. It is like, he, for the second time as of last episode, the episode before that, he goes to Mitch's house, doesn't do much damage over there, doesn't even pull a gun from what I remember, or at least doesn't shoot one. And then last episode, it seemed like strike 2, we should step this up. So just, again, reviewing some of this stuff, but the fact that, again, in this episode, he's like bruised up, like it's a high school fight, not really buying that. Anyway, in the office of the distillery, Tyson, Grace, and Bodie agree to forgive each other. She's like, we're a family. And Grace, you know, I'll say this, what background, she seemed like kind of this reserved, stonerish person who worked at the dispensary in season 1. I wish we got a little bit of like how she's so kind of smart and effective and this kind of like polished female gangster by this point. I don't know where all that came from. Maybe it just were to assume it developed over these 3 years, her confidence and everything like that. But being in the crew, I just wish we got a little more, like I said, from Grace. Joanne says that none of this. She's like, none of this would have happened, Dwight, if you were around. She's like, where the hell were you? Like, you know, none of this would have happened. And I do like that Dwight gets checked by his sister. You know, you always have. And this kind of a bit of the men as boys theme, that as badass as this guy is, if you have another badass female Italian in his family, she's the one person who can check him. It's like in The Sopranos. This guy is the head of the Jersey crime family, and all the women in his life break his balls more than anyone. And he's just getting it from every angle all the time. Love that. Anyway, he's like, I can't tell you where I was. So I like that they have continued that through line of not just this thing with Musso, but now it's built to Dwight not being honest with his sister, and she's getting suspicious. Bevilacqua arrives. Best part of the episode, as always. Which one of your fucking Mama Lukes is responsible for that? Because again, if you remember last episode, the crypt with the 50 got robbed with the whiskey, and the $150 million. He's like, $150 million. Where were you? So this is obviously a lot of product to get robbed. And what's the fucking plan, General? I can't stop writing down this guy's lines. Bevilacqua rules. So Bodhi shows them both security footage of the 50 crypt being robbed. So Bodhi comes over and he's like, oh, you're talking to Bevilacqua, my bad, I'll come back. He's like, no, come over. So he shows both him and Bill security footage. He's like, I set up some cameras around the crypt. And I just, you know, going back to last episode and then what we're seeing in this footage, why wasn't this more of like a raid? You know, like last episode. Why wasn't it that crypt? I know that we learned that Bevilacqua's guys got killed guarding it, right? So it was somewhat secure. There was some security. I just feel like there should have been a raid, a heist by Cole Dunmire. And even though Cole Dunmire is this like big, you know, jockey, redneck meathead type guy, that he could use some intelligence. Because again, if Jeremiah, his number 2 would have to be a super badass guy. I can't say that enough. And if this whole thing is we're supposed to buy this whole disapproval relationship between them, father and son, why not give us more of Cole at least being like shockingly smart, even though he's this huge meathead? But instead he's just a meathead who is still apparently the main muscle of a crime family. Okay. And like ruthless, like, oh, the Jeremiah's ruthless. Well, what ruthlessness have we seen? So I hope I made my point there, guys. Then we get our series intro. Tyson arrives to his apartment building in the shot up Cybertruck from last episode, which I did not think was a strength of last episode, as if people don't, especially people with guns, don't know that a Cybertruck is bulletproof, but that's fine. And then we got that commercial of Tesla inside. Is like, bulletproof, that's right, in case you ever get shot up in the back of. Okay. Tyson's father, again Michael Beach, Black Mana's father, is waiting for him. He's like, we can fix the problem you created, make it right. This, and so begins a bit more of like, huh? So I don't understand this thing with, they kind of don't seem to nail down very much Mark Mitchell. So his dad is supposed to be this straight-laced guy. We even get into a whole thing about, he's like, I turned my life around. I don't want to skip too far ahead, but he's like, I turned my life around and I'm no longer a gangster, so that we can get Tyson to relate to his father in this case. He's like, oh wow, you did run with a crew, and right. So that whole thing. Still, the moral of the story is now I got my life together, I'm responsible, honest, blah, blah, blah. Why then is he so hands-on with this like gangster work? Like Dwight's like, oh, your son, you know, messed up, so now I want you to also be part of. I know the guy got his hands dirty before, but I'm just gonna say throughout this episode, I wish that they would nail down. Oh, look, I love Michael Beach, I love the character. I just wish he didn't jump so, like, he is like jumping in with both feet to do a stakeout and do all this stuff at the distillery go up against essentially Jeremiah Dunmire. And I kind of don't buy that, like in his whole plumbing van, and I don't know. Anyway, so now we're at the house of one of the guys who killed Bevilacqua's guys. The guy. at the crypt. Because remember, the crypt got raided. Bill Bevilacqua's guys were guarding it. He's like, some of your guys got killed. And so he goes in the house, and I love how Grillo is hands-on. He's like, no, these were my guys. And him and Dwight. You know, the fact that Dwight, too, is still coming up, even though he's obviously, like, he's deeply established in the New York crime family. Now he's starting from scratch out in Oklahoma. So he gets his hands dirty. So that makes... Point is, I like that you're getting these older gangsters still getting their hands dirty. And in this case with Bevilacqua, it's like, it's literally personal, because he's like, you know, they went after my guys. And he's like, son, if you don't tell me, I'm going to put a bullet in your fucking eye. And, you know, he's got to get his quota of F-bombs. So that was good. And literally every line. It's just got... Then the guy pulls on him, because at first... He's like, all right, I need you to take me like an hour out of town, and then I can bring you to where the 50 is. So he's like, all right, don't do, you know, no funny business, essentially. The guy, of course, pulls on him. And they shot this well. This is what I was saying before. I wanted more of this. If the episode had like 2 more of these scenes, just to remind you, at the end of the day, you know, they always said this on the Talking Sopranos podcast. You know, these guys mess around at the Bing, they talk shit, they have fun, play cards. At the end of the day, they are still the same guys who are just doing awful things because this is who they are. Anyway, so he's like, fucker drew on me. He's like, did you get anything? Nah, he's dead. And, you know, you don't want to laugh at the death. It's just, this is where I do like the tone of the show. And Bevilacqua, he is, again, just in a different show. While, like I said before, Stallone is off his game, I think, acting-wise, this episode in particular, Grillo is just on point. You know, it's worth saying, we talked about this before, that it's not like Stallone is some Oscar-winning actor. This is a perfect role for him. I just still think within the show, Grillo, while he is almost always better than Stallone, this episode in particular, I want to say he carried the episode, is what I'm trying to say. So back in New York, we're back in Little Italy. This time we actually got a close-up of Mulberry Street. That's, of course, where you got La Mela, you got Umberto's, all the classic Little Italy, what's left of Little Italy. It's now mostly Chinatown in Lower Manhattan. And we were saying last time we were there, again, they were at the San Gennaro Festival, which is like the biggest festival of kind of this whole Italian-American culture that they have over there. And what's it called? They go to Quiet Ray's in that episode, but I don't think we saw an actual street sign of Mulberry Street. So if you know your shit of New York, that was a very, like, you could tell they, you know, someone on set knew their New York. Vince visits Quiet Ray again. Vince was the guy who gets punched in the face, and I believe in the pilot episode, by Stallone, and, you know, he's like, I demand $100,000, that guy. So now there's this power vacuum with everything that's going on with Chicky being gone, and Vince kind of doesn't really have a home, it seems. So now he's checking in with Quiet Ray, and he's like, I'm very grateful for your valuable time. I love the dialogue of these gangsters when they're kind of semi-kissing ass, and they're tough guys, and then when they're, and we see this later with Bevilacqua, it's probably a theme of this a little bit, of Bevilacqua sweet talking kind of for the first time. This is the first time we really saw him not in this position of, so we'll get to that, but I think it's reflected here a bit too. He's like, they just got in the booze, brown liquor, they're expanding. And then Quiet Ray's like, that's valuable news, and it won't be forgotten. And again, I love this shitty little apartment he's got in Little Italy, very old school. A lot of those old school Italian guys with money, they just still keep, and especially if you're connected, you don't want to show the money. And Capone, as we talked about famously, was just operated out of this little shitty house in Chicago. And this is kind of the New York version of that. And that he's Quiet Ray, understated. He's not flashy, he's not loud, but I'm looking forward to characters like this inevitably explode. And of course we have the Mad Bomber guy, so maybe there'll be some back and forths between the explosion of New York and the explosion of the guy in Dallas. Anyway, back at the distillery, Bodie and the KC guy. Bodie's digitally boosting shit off Dunmire's trucks, and then Grace is getting Bodie to help the KC guy. So Bodie tried to explain 3 Ways from Sunday what he's doing on, and the guy just doesn't understand a word of circumvent, cyber, and then he's just like, huh? He's like, wait, you're boosting shit off their trucks with the computer. So then Grace is getting Bodhi to help the KC guy. And he's like, "Why? What are you doing? Stop getting involved in this." Because again, this is the guy that I believe he pistol whipped, and they had a beef previously. Yeah, that was the guy who killed his friend, and the whole thing with the money and him taking Bill's guy hostage. That was Bill's guy, I believe. So I guess she's still trying to patch them up. She's like, "What other kind of shit can you do on this computer?" Which it's kind of a line that like a boomer would ask, I believe. I don't think a fellow millennial would be like, "What else are these computer devices capable of?" Lois Lane, and she doesn't really have a southern accent, so, but, you know, I can't help it as a Yankee doing the accent. Probably not very great. Lois Lane sits down with Thresher at a country club. So Lois Lane is, of course, Margaret Devereaux. McDonough crushes. I'm sorry. McDonough, as always, crushes. He's just so good, man. And this is a very specific character we talked about before, how each and that continues into this. Each character, especially with costuming, we see his house. It's kind of got this whole Asian influence. He worked with an Asian guy before, and now we're seeing just him in this country club, but a very specific costuming, the way he walks, all of it. It's not just every other McDonough villain that we've gotten. Margaret points out that Thresher is not well liked. She's like, "Your vibe is off. People don't like you." And he's like, "People love me." She goes, "Your mother loves you." And this is where the adult animation dialogue really does work. With scenes like this, it's just I wish, again, they'd intersperse it just a couple more. You know, I'm accepting the tone of the show at this point is not full-on gangster, but it's got to be just more, I think, to kind of fulfill its, I don't want to say quota, but you get my point. So her pitch is that she's like, "I know everybody. I'm rural, urban. I know the tech bros, oil people, everybody." So her proposal is to get him elected in exchange for giving him back her shares of the ranch. She wants the ranch back, guys. She's American and wants her land, and she should. And also, it's like, who the hell wants this shady billionaire? He's literally the villain of one of the villains of last season to, again, have such a large share of her ranch. So back at the distillery, and I guess that, yeah, they talk about it later that she essentially, at first I thought she was saying, "I'll run as governor," but what she's saying is that I'll be at your side as you run. So they'll think we're together, because they don't like, as she points out, the whole bachelor thing, which I'm wondering, as we talked about, if they're gonna do like he might lean other directions, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, back at the distillery, Grace and Bodhi are AIing a bourbon influencer. This is kind of funny. This is where I think the adult animation, again, works for like, oh, let's modernize a gangster thing. So Grace and Bodhi are, again, doing this. She's like, we want the publicity without the baggage. Because he's like, why not just get a real influencer? Why are we doing this AI shit? And she's like, because real people ask questions. So we want the publicity without the baggage. So that's an interesting thing. If you think about it, yeah. You want as little people asking questions. This is all illegal money. So yeah, smart. On the Dunmire estate, he's like, "You are a testament to my strength." So T-1000 is pissed at his son, Robert Patrick. Jeremiah Dunmire is pissed at Cole. He's like, "You should have been minding the shop. This ain't about computers." And just the lines that are in this are just so good. And then Cole's like, "Look, I can show you. I got you the 50. So you keep telling me." He's just not impressed. He's never impressed by his son. Which, by the way, all his son does is punch people. So and run bingo that we've seen so far. So yeah, I wouldn't be too impressed with the son. But again, his fault. The shit runs downhill. Uphill? Why is he not the head of this demon? The head of this cobra doesn't seem very, as badass as he is in reputation. I just don't see why he would have a son for the millionth time. He's like, Come, father, I could show you the 50. Come with me, you could taste it. And he's just like, "I ain't impressed by you. Later." So he doesn't say I ain't impressed, but he's just like, later. And you know, the actor playing Cole does a good job looking disappointed. They both do. You know, they're the co-disappointment. There's codependence. The Dunmires are co-disappointed. Because, to be clear, the shit that Bodhi's been doing electronically, again, he's like, "You're boosting shit off their docks, or off their trucks with a computer." Cole is discovering that he's been doing this, and but his father's like, it's still on you, son, still on you. So at the bread to book, Mitch is waiting around on intel, and even says the stuff with Mitch this episode is weak, especially following that drama from Cleo last episode. Like, and then we're getting follow-up dialogue. She's sober this episode, and this is what I just couldn't believe. He flat out said, I'm waiting around on intel. Who wants to hear that? Watching television, that a character is waiting around to do something. And have them do something else while they're waiting. He's literally just, see, does Mitch seem like a guy who just waits around a bar? That didn't click with me. Again, I wish more was happening. And she goes, I didn't think, he says something completely correctly, where he's like, all right, coming from the girl who was doing donuts on Jeremiah Dunmire's. And she goes, I didn't think he was going to shoot us over landscaping. You didn't? You didn't think that? Okay, so you're sober right now, and you didn't think that Jeremiah Dunmire would shoot somebody over landscaping. This guy cauterized his own kid's wound last episode with a fire poke, so this girl's again, this is her family, this is her rival family. I'm not going to harp on this because I went into full detail last episode if you want to hear my full rant on it. But it's worth repeating because we got a line in this episode. And just, she doesn't think that Jeremiah Dunmire would shoot her over landscaping. And to the greater point, obviously there's more to it than that. She came on her property. Like, it's just, I don't see how this girl, and the fact that the family has, Dwight's crew, I should say, the family, is, this is like 2 strikes for them at this point. And with her, really 3. So I don't understand her at all. I can't stand her character. And this, my point is, and I'll move on after this, kind of solidifies what I didn't like about last episode. The fact that she's literally sober, and that's how she reflects on the situation. Okay, cool. So back at the distillery, Musso calls. His name, of course, in the contact is Dickhead. And this whole thing, you know, you better not get involved with the Dixie Mafia over this whiskey thing. How do you know about that? How do you not know, Dwight, that he knows, we know that he knows that you know. You should know that we know. And I'll stop saying the word no. Again, check out previous episodes for my rant. But this crap with Dwight continues of, how does this guy know this stuff? Because he's a Fed who's following you specific. Okay. So they talk about, in the office now, they're showing Joanne the vibe curator, as they're calling him, Jasper, the AI influencer. So they created, I'm assuming fake, 100,000 followers on IG and YouTube. And again, he's Jasper, the AI influencer. So Tyson and his dad are staked out in his plumber van. And again, I know this guy got his hands dirty in past seasons, but this seems just a bit too voluntary for this straight-laced character, especially, you know, he's like honest, hardworking, responsible. He reveals he used to run with this crew of criminals, but now he's, again, honest, hardworking, responsible. Why is he sitting in a van with his kids staked out outside a stripper's house to take back illegal whiskey? What? Okay. And he also says that his mother was instrumental. He's like, back in the day before your mom. So she comes out, he's like, that ain't no Ritz cracker, son. And he goes, that's Serenity. He goes, the exotic dancer? And he's like, the stripper. Again, good dialogue, but because he corrected him before, he's like, oh, she's a stripper? No, she's an exotic dancer. Now that he knows that, oh, and I should point out, she was driving Cole Dunmire's truck, so he knows he's being betrayed. Betrayed by a stripper, you say, you just met. And again, why did they make last episode... We should care on a human level. I'm not saying because of her line of work. It's just, why didn't we get, if it at that point was the 3rd episode of the season, why not get set up for episodes 1 and 2, or just 2? I don't know. We literally meet her 5 minutes later. We're like, oh no, the stripper. And he's like, oh no, she betrayed me. You barely know this girl. Again, you don't even know her name. This show, again, this show kind of keeps doing this of like, the show is pointing out the mistakes of the show. Musso did this in the car Musso flat out said last episode, let's stop playing the game where you act like you don't know what's going on. Is this a meta thing of Dwight playing dumb? I don't think so. It's just being dumb or acting dumb. And then in this case, it's like, you get my point. Anyway, Tyson calls Dwight on the tail of Serenity in Cole's truck. So once again, at this point, after tailing him, Cole's whole operation, by the way, sorry. So they get to a new place after tailing the girlfriend, and it's just, I gotta say, Cole's whole operation is sloppy, man. Like, it makes no sense. For Dunmire's number 2, as I keep saying, in this case, the stripper being obvious, like driving his truck, why would they not maintain the illusion that this girl was possibly interested, right? Or at least, why would they make it so apparent? Have her drive her own car. That literally could have solved all of this. It just seems like weak kind of gangster writing, in my opinion. Our Franken AI is going to be a frickin' gold mine. That's what Gray says too. Okay, whatever. Because then now they've activated it with. They got the go ahead from. Sorry, they got the go ahead from Joanne. So now the Franken AI, which is a freaking gold mine, is live. Jasper, the AI influencer. So Tyson and his dad arrive at the warehouse, and he's like, I got some lead pipes. Let's go take care of this. He's like, that's the cracker who beat you up. What are we talking about? Like, lead pipes. They have to, again, where's the planning, the heist shit, the raid? This is a guy who is apparently straight-laced. He would be so much more cautious. And I know they're going like, oh, this is the father protecting the son. Let's take care of this. This guy knows more than anybody. You don't just, yeah, let's just take some lead pipes out to Dixie Mafia like it's a 40s show. I don't know. It was very weird stuff going on here. And again, where was the raid from last episode? I complained about that for the 50. Why not at least show us some of that? In this case, that was this guy's plan. So Dwight arrives with the crew. Goody Mitch and even Bevilacqua comes to help out. He's like, what's the plan, Dwight? He's like, diversion. And again, Bevilacqua's ready to plan. He's in a different show. Mark doesn't want to plan anything. He just wants to lead pipe people who are holding $150 million of whiskey. Yeah, because they wouldn't have guns. Inside the warehouse, Dunmire's tasting the 50, so finally he got his dad to show up. Still doesn't approve, as we learned, but that's fine. He's like, there's history in this oak, boys. So Dunmire tastes it, some cool music plays. I think this was a little drawn out. I'm not gonna... If you do, maybe they were trying to be like, look, this is how important and sacred the 50 is, but just a lot of close-ups of the barrel. It seemed very ritualistic. It's only a 40-minute episode, and again, still not a ton is happening. Plot-wise stuff is, but you get my point of there could have been more action for Bevilacqua, for example. I just think in an episode where more could have happened, and season-wise, if we're coming up on halfway, we're doing close-ups of whiskey barrels, but that's fine. Again, it is literally almost a character at this point in this whole season, the 50, so maybe the problem would just be solved by other scenes. So outside, he's like, move and die, son. Attaboy. Bevilacqua just loves being a gangster. So Cole walks out around one of the trucks, actually the truck that's holding, the 18-wheeler that's holding the 50 that they had robbed, and move and die, son. Just, God, Bevilacqua was so freaking... Actually, he doesn't really have a southern accent, but you got my point. Smiling as he's doing it. Loving his job. I love that he loves his job. So our booze... he's like, our booze back, and you get your blood back. So at this point, Dwight is revealed to Dunmire, and Dunmire comes out. He's like, you got a strange notion about fair exchange. They got Cole hostage, and he's like, blood for bourbon. Blood for bourbon. He's like, can you offer more? A sweetener, perhaps? This is good shit, man. It's like literally got his son at gunpoint. He's like, my son. And there's really good dialogue about how, well, it's not just the money. It's legacy. And there's another guy who sacrificed his son for a greater good. Oof. There's only one son I worship, and he was sacrificed in the name of the greater good, too. It's really fucking demented. But then, alas, he surrenders. And Robert Patrick, man, it's all on his face. That just such good facial acting. I talked about that last episode. The way he animates his face, bunches it up. audio, you can't see me doing it, but I was saying also that his age literally helps him do this kind of scrunch up with his face, this acting choice of animating his face that is so good for this character. It's a very specific character, as I keep saying. And again, the costuming, all of it. Anyway, Mitch takes the truck. Mitch takes the truck with the 50, the 18-wheeler, so he's the guy driving it. Back at the Manfredi residence, Lois Lane and Dwight are reading in bed. So we got Margaret Devereaux and Dwight are reading in bed. This is just more dialogue that I do not like. It's like, all these pieces are starting to fall in place. He's like, hey, so now that we're in season 3, let me recap for you. All these pieces are starting to fall in place. Like that puzzle. He literally said, like that puzzle downstairs. Here's how you do this scene. They work on the puzzle, then it cuts to them reading, and then he starts thinking, even if he says these pieces are starting to fall in place, the fact that he says the word puzzle, and they didn't even work on the puzzle this episode. They worked on the puzzle like 2 episodes ago. It was Lois Lane, Gloria Trillo, you know, his sister, her, and him working on a puzzle. That puzzle downstairs, that just felt really lazy. This isn't an audio drama. If it was an audio drama, that's how you take care of that. This, I don't know. Even an audio drama, you would just have had a scene of them working on a puzzle. You get my point. Show, don't tell. So, and then another one is like, people, what I've concluded is that people need people. And I had this issue last episode. I've been thinking about this eye for an eye thing. Like, these whole Dwight's reflections, it might as well be him, like, picture in picture in the corner of the episode. Again, like a semi-previously on meta thing of going like, this is what I think of my own show. And I am not interested in them doing this. They should very much stop doing this. I understand that he's supposed to be a more reflective, intellectual gangster. He spent 25 years in the can reading. So he's this kind of literate gangster, which is interesting, but they're not pulling it off, whatever they think they're doing. They did it in the first couple seasons, I'll admit that. They're not now. Bevilacqua was on the road back to KC, so he's driving at night by himself. Quiet Ray calls Bill, and I love just seeing a gangster in a giant truck. So it's not like a caddy, it's not the classic like Jersey hoopties that we see these the old school traditional Italian gangsters. This guy's literally driving a giant truck. So Quiet Ray calls Bill Bevilacqua. And if you remember, we got a call as well from Vince. So this is kind of the second line to New York that Bill has been established for him. He didn't even make the calls. He's been called by two different people, one from Vince, now with Ray, and it's a good connection that Vince is making moves on his own, right? Vince, we saw earlier this episode, like I said, went to Quiet Ray's shitty little apartment on Mulberry Street, and now we have him connecting, now we have Ray connecting with Bill. And again, this is so interesting. This is probably the first time in 3 seasons that we've seen Bill in a position of less power. So he is super nice to Ray, very and not even in a fake way. He's just like, hey, you know, my grandfather always spoke well of you, and my father, and blah, blah, blah. Because he says that, you know, apparently Bevilacqua's family specialized in the sports book. So Bevilacqua's grandfather was like an expert in the sports book, and they made a ton of money together. So just seeing, again, this usually such a tough guy kiss genuine ass. Again, this is New York corporate. That's the corporate office, is New York, is Mulberry Street. Even though it's in that tiny little apartment, that guy Ray currently has at least one of the 5 family, all the power. He's like, look, if you have a problem with anybody out there, I'm just a phone call away. Do you understand? So good. He's like, yeah, I think I understand. So this is, again, the second person who, essentially, if Bevilacqua wants to pull the trigger on Dwight, he's got it. And this theme of pressure building in Dwight from all angles. Again, the Tony Soprano's life of females, he's getting it from his wife, his therapist, his guma, his mother, especially, his daughter. All these people crap all over him, even though he's a super powerful gangster. Dwight, he's got Musso, he's got Bevilacqua, who he never had full power over anyway. So it is brilliant to now tie New York into that. As the season develops, the show gets bigger, you connect these different pressures. And yeah, this was good, again, plot-wise. So for final thoughts, of course, then we get our credits. Final thoughts and recommends. I still do recommend the show. I do. Especially catch up. If you've never watched it, of course, catch up on the previous seasons. The previous seasons are, at this point, I can agree. I can safely say if we're 4 episodes into a 10-episode season, they're better. This is not, I don't want to say it's not the same show, but it's kind of almost getting to that. Not that it's bad overall. I heard Neurotic was like, it's still better than most of the shit that's on TV, by far, for sure. But it is a bit disappointing, I'll say, and I've made this clear, but in final thoughts and recommends, still do recommend it. It's still a great time to watch it. I just wish, I don't understand why we can't get more, especially now. That was even more of a tease, the Bevilacqua scene, him shooting that guy. It's like, God, this show is still good at shooting the action, but last episode, I think it was that same director too, but if you remember, the action wasn't that good in that episode, so I was a little worried that we were completely losing the action angle with all this humor. Look, it's good that we haven't. It's just I think we need to get back to what we were. And the final thing I'll say is that episode 5 is exactly halfway through, is what I'm trying to say. So once again, if we can really pick up the pace and just go, less humor, and you bring in again more of the action, you guys get my point. This is the point of the show, to do it. And I think let's not be fully disappointed, maybe until next episode or even episode 6. All right, and that is the show. If you haven't already, smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications for future streams of Too Many Shows, subscribe and follow the pod. Again, that's Too Many Shows, a TV podcast. Any kind of super donation here in the stream or on any of our videos is much appreciated. Again, every Monday, Tulsa King Reviews start between 2 and 2:30 p.m. EST. And finally, our exclusive pod coming this week for the Sam Jackson spinoff series of Tulsa King. Patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. Click the link in the show notes below. And then again, last night we dropped our Alien Earth Season 1 post-mortem. Thank God that's over. Again, Tulsa King, much better television. So go and listen to that exclusive if you haven't. Early access to podcasts, detailed episode notes for each pod. Again, that's all just at the $1 level. Patreon.com/BatmanBeyondMedia. This has been Benjamin reminding you to watch your shows.